Okay. See the red button?
We're on?
That means that we're live.
Okay.
You be okay?
Yeah.
Freaking out? No? Cool. Because wait. Here you are. Oh, it's going to show any second. An error occurred. How cute is that? Helpful. Oh, there we are. So we're live. Hey guys, Professor Bill, Comic Book University. There's actually nobody in here right now.
Oh, okay.
So we're literally talking to nobody. This is essentially recorded.
Mm.
Okay, so anyway, guys, I haven't watched this show.
But I have.
But she has. And she really wanted to talk about it. More than that, there's a couple people that also want to talk about it too. I remember there was 2 weeks ago you came in and like, okay, I need to talk about this. I'm like,
more than 2
okay.
weeks ago, as soon as it came out, I was like, I want to talk about it.
That also, but then 2 weeks
is,
ago, most recently, you were like, okay,
yeah.
I want to talk about it a lot. You got to watch it with me. It's like, yeah, you can watch it.
I know. The sad thing is, though, I don't think I remember the sequence of things. It's just I watched it once, and I need to watch it many, many times for me to absorb everything that happened.
Yeah. Yeah, that's where we're different. You watch the thing to memorize every single thing, and I just analyze what I see, and I'm just like, no, I'm good. I got it.
Sometimes, but like with this one, there are a lot of Easter eggs.
How many times have you watched Star Trek Voyager?
I can't even count it. Next Generation, a couple of times. The original just once.
Deep Space Nine
once and a half.
Yeah, and once for Enterprise.
Yeah.
And how many of the Discovery episodes did you watch?
Not much. So I
just the first half of the season, right?
Something like that. Yeah. But I was recently talking to people, and they were telling me, yeah, it picks up afterwards. So I'm gonna go back to it.
That's what people say. I've also seen people say, no, it sucked afterwards. They changed it too much.
Well, these are my friends, so I kind of trust them. We have similar tastes. They're my girlfriends, so I'm gonna give it a shot. If I don't like it, then I'll like. The thing is, I fell off the wagon, and it was okay. I didn't need to go back, which is not a good thing. So yeah.
But what about Picard? The show sucked.
No, it's really good. Yeah. It's really, really good. So apparently people hated it. I don't know. I haven't been reading why people hated it.
What about your friends who you trust?
They like it.
Okay, well then.
They like it. But they're weirded out about the fact that there's some swearing, which is weird. If we're not...
It was weird to you also. You're like,
it is
okay, this is really weird because like twice they dropped the F-bomb in the same episode. It's really weird. I'm like, okay.
Yeah, I think that was like the second last episode, like last episode or something. Yeah.
Today was the last episode.
Yeah, so like the previous episode was used is just, and I don't think it was well positioned because you have this politician, this admiral, who's speaking to a retired admiral, dropping the F-bomb because she's mad at him. And mind you, this admiral apparently was an ensign in under Picard, and she's swearing at Picard, right? So it's like, what is the, like, how do you go from being mentored by Picard to now having him frail, retired old man coming to you for help, and you're swearing at him? Like, what happened in the middle?
Close that a little bit more. Well, here's the thing. Oftentimes I will see students, and I'm getting some of this off of you also, when you like, for instance, when you went to school for journalism, you studied this, that, and the other thing, and it's like there's this ideal, and then afterwards you get into it, you start to realize that you have to be cutthroat, you have to be kind of a scumbag.
Yeah, and then
you kind of want to go back to your teacher and be like, why didn't you tell me all of this stuff? I'm mad at you because you gave me the ideal. And not just with journalism, but with,
anything. Yeah, makes sense. But I know there's like there's some background that we're missing between Next Generation, Deep Space Nine, and this show. To be honest, I don't even know if they're getting any of their content from the books, because I haven't read any of the books.
Bought you books and you don't read them.
I know.
Bought you comic books, you don't read them.
One day, I'll get there. But it was a really good show. I would definitely rewatch it again. It wasn't episodic the way that other Star Treks have been, the traditional old Star Treks. The whole, like, the story there was a continuity all throughout, right? You had to watch episode 1 to get episode 2 and so forth. And every episode was very packed action wise. That there's 7 becomes an important character, and I was really hoping that they were gonna draw some Janeway in there, but there's no. I know. Makes me very sad. I know. I really want to see. I loved Voyager a whole lot more than I loved Next Generation. So I want to see Seven's her relationship now, what it looks like with Janeway. So yeah.
Yeah, but unfortunately, you'd have to incorporate the final episode of.
But they do incorporate that. One of the main pieces.
Wait, so is Chakotay there? Because I hated that.
Chakotay was Chakotay was a sad character, but not a sad character. Is just
he's a sad actor.
That, but also the way they developed his story is such a mess. It's like
because he didn't want to be on the show.
But more than that, he's supposed to be an indigenous person, and his story and his traditions. In Canada,
that's what they call the Native Americans.
Yes, so he's a native person, native North American, but then I don't know how much consultation they had with actual indigenous people in developing the story, because none of the traditions that he practices are actual indigenous practices. They're just pulled out of a hat. Like he's supposed to be this made up tribe, and it makes me feel icky, especially the fact that I don't feel like he did it justice, or they did it justice, right? So it was just kind of like taking liberties too much.
No, as somebody who's actually part Cherokee, I didn't have a problem with it at all. They could have gone more Native American, but to what extent?
But they fictionalized the indigenous aspect of it.
In some regards, but it's not here to, they weren't here with an agenda to be like, this is the Native American character putting it forward. Stuff like, no, it's just, he's Native American. Hey, here's some stuff. Like the stuff they did with the moon, remember? Like, when you see the moon, you'll know that you're dreaming. And I was like, I think that was freaking perfect. It wasn't too much. It reminded you that he's Native American, but didn't have to hammer it home every single freaking episode.
No.
I thought they did it great.
My issue with it was just the authenticity. It wasn't authentic.
Anyway, so this is about Picard, right? Stop looking there. It doesn't matter.
Okay, whatever. I'm just trying to see what's going on.
I don't care about that. I'm talking about this thing.
Okay, fine.
So yeah, what do you want? Notes?
Yeah.
Let me see this crap right there. So anyway,
I need that white paper, seriously.
For something else?
Yeah, like it has the characters. I don't remember the name of the characters.
Oh, that sucks.
Yeah.
I might have to reach back there and grab that for you.
Anyways.
But in the meantime, okay, so what happened? How did this show start off?
So the show starts off with a retired Picard.
I'm gonna close that pen because an open pen kind of scares me, like a unsheathed knife. Go ahead.
It starts off with Picard. He's retired. He's living in his vineyard. He's kind of sad. Like it's just very. The whole setting feels very dystopic. He has two, not Vulcans. Vulcan's cousins.
Romulans.
Thank you. I know. I just lost all credibility. So he has two Romulans living with him.
Let me turn these lights on. Yeah, go ahead. Two Romulans living with him.
Two Romulans living with him. Two people who are Romulans that are living with him. And I don't like it's a man and a woman, and I don't know if they're a couple or not, but like that's the feeling that I have. Or like siblings or something like that. They're very close. But anyways, so the story is that after everything has happened with the Star Trek universe, Romulus, something happened in Romulus where their star went supernova, and their planet had to be evacuated. There was so
this is not in the Kelvin universe. The Kelvin universe is what they're calling the movies from Paramount Pictures.
Yeah, it's not the movies universe. Yeah.
So this is the actual original CBS version of Star Trek. Okay.
Yeah, but I don't know how much continuity there is, so that's why I want to watch it multiple times and read and stuff like that. But anyways, so the planet had to be evacuated and Starfleet is asked to rescue the people. There's like, this back and forth a little bit, but then they decide to commit. The shipyard, Plantatia, something like that. The name is in there. That's why I wrote things down. But the shipyard it's on Mars, and they were creating the armada that would rescue people from. Okay. But the Mars ends up exploding because these rogue synthetics that were there, or these synthetics, go rogue, and they bring down the defenses.
Synthetic life forms.
Yes.
Okay,
gotcha. Life forms. Yeah, and then the planet explodes. So now the Starfleet decides to ban all synthetic life forms. At some point, what's his name? Data dies. I don't know when he dies. Is it before that or when that is? But the story is that he dies saving Picard's life. So, in the beginning, that's the first episode. Like, that's some of the story that we're getting. Picard it seems like he is experiencing some sort of PTSD. Like, the first scene is him dreaming of the planet exploding, and him dreaming of having a conversation with Data. And then one of the lines that he says, and I can't even remember who he was saying to, but like, it's not the dreams that bother me, but it's the waking up that I regret. So that's telling me a lot, right?
So they did consultation on that.
I'm sorry?
They did consultation on that. Yeah, that hit me in the feels.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It was a very powerful episode. Like, and you have, and it's in some ways is a little bit the character of Picard. There's a bit of a difference because the Picard that we're used to, he's sort of detached. That was his persona, right? He's detached. He's not cold. He is caring, but like, he's not very touchy-feely emotional. He's not like that here, but he's definitely a lot warmer, I felt. So, like the two people that live with him.
He doesn't have to be so formal. That's what you're saying.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And he's a lot more closer with expressing his emotions, and oftentimes.
Is it like the relationship that he kind of had with Whoopi Goldberg?
Yes.
I forget what her character's name was in the TV series. It's been forever since I watched these shows.
Yes, but it's more of like leaning more into the trauma, the anger, those kinds of feelings. And usually those are the easier feelings to express anyways. But yeah, the two people that he lives with, the two Romulans, they kind of take care of him. They help him with his vineyard. They're essentially like his nurses, not in a formal term, but like they take care of him. He's old, right? And if you remember, at the end of Next Generation, he's diagnosed with some sort of a disease. I can't remember. He has some sort of abnormality in his brain that is terminal, and he's going to die. So we learned that in Next Generation. So this picks that up. And it's kind of more profound, or like more pronounced now, right? So it's like his situation has deteriorated a little bit more. I can't remember what episode it was, but like at some point a doctor comes and visits him. Yes, it's towards the middle when he decides that he was gonna go on a rescue mission. But and the doctor is telling him like, yeah, like it has progressed quite a bit. So he's very aware of that. He's aware that he's frail. He's not as strong as he used to be, and he has this terminal illness that is going to be the end of him very soon. So we have that feeling. One interesting thing that happens in the first episode, the two people that live with him kind of convince him to speak to Starfleet about not speak to Starfleet, but like kind of give an interview. And in the interview, it's supposed to be about his life and stuff like that. He makes the two Romulan people speak with the journalist and promise and make the journalist promise that she wasn't going to ask about Mars, about Data, about why he left Starfleet. But obviously, a good journalist is not going to leave such a strong, good questions unasked, and she goes for those. So he kind of explodes, and that's when you're shaking your head. I understand. But at the same time, it's her job to get the story, and she gets the story. What's it called? But in that story, he's really angry at Starfleet, and he talks about that, and that's one of the most interesting things to me, because the Starfleet that we knew was this very utopian world, or this utopian version of Earth, this utopian government of Earth that was above discrimination and racism, even though, like, we can argue that, those things are still present within Star Trek. But yeah, like, it's supposed to be above those things. But then now we have a Starfleet that is, you can say they're xenophobic, but at the same time, like, their policies have become what is the word, exclusionary. So, like, they're not trying to reach out the way that they were, but they're more about, protecting themselves. Is like, it's about us. It's not as optimistic as it used to be, right? And that's their policies. So what happens is that after Mars blows up, they ban all synthetic lives, and they don't continue their promise to the Romulans in terms of, like, rescuing people, right? So whoever they rescued, and they're on all these different planets, but those people are now stranded on those planets, and they're not getting any support from Starfleet, as it was assumed, right? So those are some of the things. So if we look back at Deep Space Nine, and shoot, I forgot. So on Deep Space Nine, the Romulans came and rescued Starfleet, right? So there were these, yes, right? So that we had these aliens that came from the Gamma Quadrant, and they were essentially, like, Starfleet was losing, and so were the so many different Earth planets were losing, right? Or cultures were losing. The Romulans had a the word I'm looking for is not a pact, but had some sort of a deal with
treaty.
Yes, they had a treaty. But then they decide, what? They realize, like, after Starfleet is eaten up, they're coming for us. So they join forces with Starfleet. And in a sense, they rescue Starfleet. So here now, when I'm watching Picard, it's like, this is the next big tragedy that happens in the Alpha Quadrant, and Starfleet kind of washes their hands off of the Romulans and kind of let them defend off. So anyways, after that, a young woman is attacked in her home. This is all in the first episode. A young woman is attacked in her home.
Earthling?
Yes, she looks human. She's with her boyfriend and random, I think 5 or 6 people.
They were living in sin. Go on.
So a guy, they're hanging out, they're talking, whatever. Anyway, so people barge into what looks like a condo, and they kill the boyfriend. They try to kidnap her, but then she gets activated, and, like, they're talking among themselves, right? First they put they try to subdue her. They're struggling with that a little bit, but they can manage her, and then they put a black bag over her head, and something just happens. She pauses, and all of a sudden she's like,
she's a synthetic.
Yeah.
Okay.
So she's a synthetic.
And then she just wipes the floor with these guys?
Oh yeah, absolutely. She kills all of them. She freaks out, like, what the hell? So we learn that she was shoot, I forgot the names. So she was a scientist, and she's a young person who just got admitted into the datum instrum. Oh my gosh, I can't believe I forgot the names. I'm terrible at this. But anyways, so she gets into this prestigious school, and, like, this is all throughout Star Trek. We know about this school or this institute. They study synthetics,
So with the ban on synthetics, you said the word you used is ban. So if they find out about her, they're going to deactivate her?
That's my assumption.
Who were these guys who came in?
They're Vulcan. Sorry, not Vulcan. Why do I keep calling
Romulans?
them that? They're Romulans.
Okay.
Yeah, they're Romulans. Do you want me to spoil it for you? What kind of Romulans are they? Okay, so they're Tal Shiar, and they're not just Tal Shiar. They're a small sect within that itself, who have this belief, this prophecy that synthetic life will be the end of organic life. That's what they believe. So it's their mission to sniff out synthetic lives, right?
Okay.
So
but this isn't coming from the Federation. The Federation's edict right now is to
synthetic lives are banned. Yeah.
Banned meaning if we find you, we'll deactivate you.
Yes, that's what I'm
But
assuming.
the Tal Shiar are not a part of this?
No.
Okay, so there's a lot of people coming down on the
synthetic lives.
Synthetic lives, wow.
Yeah, which makes you wonder, had Data survived in this climate, what would have been his fate, right? Yeah. But also, like, how are they defining synthetic? Because with Voyager, we had holograms, and there was a lot of like conversation around hologram rights. So like this one.
So do they mention that here?
No.
Or this is just you?
This is me assuming. Okay, like, nice. Okay, what is their understanding of holograms, right? Because
that was that was easily like 20% of every Voyager episode.
Yeah. I love that aspect of Voyager. And we don't hear anything about the Doctor here or Janeway or any of that.
He's busy working for Bill Nye, the science guy, the Planetary Institute.
Oh, okay. Datum instrument. Oh my gosh, I can't believe it's in like the tip of my tongue.
You're seriously obsessing over it.
I am. But anyways, so this girl, she turns out to be synthetic. Mm-hmm. After she leaves her apartment.
Was the boyfriend or no?
No, he died. They killed him. And to me, I don't even know what he was. He looked human, but he wasn't human. His eyes were something.
So he was also synthetic. Okay.
No, he wasn't synthetic. Well,
then
I don't know what he was.
He was something other than human?
I don't know. His eyes were weird, but aside from that, he looked human to me.
What was weird about his eyes?
It looked like they had some sort of like visors or something like inside his eyes. And his eyes were like not a human color inside, but everything.
So did they say they killed a human?
They didn't say anything. Actually, here's the thing. After she leaves the apartment, when Picard is doing the research of like what happened to her, there was nothing in her apartment that would indicate a fight has happened, somebody was killed, she was attacked, none of that. So they cleaned it up really well. Okay, so when she's out, she's getting these images in her head, things that are implanted, and they're telling her to go find Picard. Mm-hmm. So she goes and she finds Picard. But how does she even find Picard is super weird because she has these superpowers that she didn't know she could, things that she didn't know she could do. Not only the physical abilities, but her ability to hear things, see things, and manipulate technology were all things that she didn't know because for her, she was a regular human being. With a mom and a dad and was raised and had likes and dislikes and all that stuff, right? And she's a young person. I don't remember if they mentioned her age, but she looks like she's early 20s. Anyway, so she goes and she finds Picard. Mm-hmm. She goes and she finds Picard. When she finds Picard, she's suspicious. So anyways.
Go
on. How did it go? Anyway, so they have a conversation. Picard realizes that she's Data's daughter. And shoot, I don't remember exactly the sequence of events when he realized that she's synthetic and whatnot. But anyways, that girl ends up being killed in front of him, right? While he's with her. And he's trying to convince her to come back with him. She came to see him and then she ran away because everything was just too much for her. She didn't understand why she had all these things that were happening to her. And at that point, he didn't understand. Picard himself goes on a mini quest within Earth. He goes to the Datum
Institute. Jesus, just freaking go on with it. Oh my God.
It's an important part of the story and I just can't remember the name. So anyways.
Call the DI, all right?
Okay, so he goes to the DI, and there he goes into a room that's supposed to have relics from his ship. And one of the things that he finds is a painting done by Data that looks exactly like the girl, and the painting is titled Daughter.
Okay.
Yeah, and remember how Data was very obsessive about being human?
Yeah.
Right? So this girl, everything about her is human. She even thinks she's human. So that's when Picard clicks the two dots, and then when he tries to tell her, she freaks out a little bit more, and then they get attacked by the Romulans. They do something to her where they I think like a guy spits on her, and she just kind of disintegrates, right? Burns up, yeah. And then Picard gets knocked out, and by the time he wakes up, he's back in his vineyard, and the two people that live with him tell him there was nothing, no footage that indicated an attack. The girl was not in the videos, nothing, and everything. There were no even molecular anything, right? So that's when he freaks out, or like kind of realizes what's happening a little bit. The two people that live with him are able to fill him in a little bit about some of the backstory. So if this girl is synthetic, well, the people who are probably going after her are not just are not just Romulans, but there are this sect within the Tal Shiar who are very anti-synthetic, right? So in the conversations with the girl who died, she tells him that she has a twin sister, and her twin sister is working on the relic. The relic is a Borg cube that was left, that wasn't destroyed when Voyager came back to Earth. Remember how there was like a whole bunch of... Okay, so it's there. So, and it's in Romulan space. So the Romulans are kind of mining this relic, this cube. So it's a scientist there, Dr. Soji. And so in that cube, they're taking the ex-Borg people. They're removing them away from the Borg, kind of like freeing them, but at the same time they're not on the same level as everybody else. They're not citizens of the Federation, and the Romulans are just kind of leaving them, roam around within the cube, but also they're using them for their parts. And there's like a whole thing of like people hunting ex-Borg for the nanos in their body. So I'm jumping a little bit. I'm jumping all over the place, but if you remember the boy who in Voyager was rescued by Voyager, he was a Borg, and then
Oh, in the very later episodes, Seven wound up mentoring him.
And in a sense, like he became her son. So I think by the second or third episode, we see that boy being killed for the nanos in his body, and at this time he's actually he's a Starfleet officer. I don't remember what his rank was at that time, but like he gets killed
by
actually he doesn't even get killed. They're removing the nanos and everything while he's still alive and awake. Seven comes to rescue him, but by the time she gets there, there's no way she could save his life. So he asks her, just kill me, please. And she actually ends up killing him, and she's crying. Like, that was a very sad story, actually. Because for me, I've always hoped that if there was ever a continuation, I really wanted to see what happens with him. He was really, like, with Voyager towards the end, like, he's actually studying to become a Starfleet officer. He's studying, anyways, he's studying to become a Starfleet officer all the way while he's in the Delta Quadrant, right? So, I don't know. I didn't like that the show killed him. Not just because, like, it was emotionally intense, but I feel like there was a lot more that maybe they could have done with him. I don't know. For me, I
don't disagree with you, because like, they're focusing so much on Picard because, hey, there's the moneymaker, shake him, right?
Yeah.
But he's gonna freaking die. I mean, they're even saying in the show, like, Patrick Stewart is old. He's gonna freaking die one of these days.
I know.
Picard himself, brain aneurysm, incurable, can't just phase technology, get rid of it or anything like that. He's gonna freaking die. You have to have some things for the future, not just throwing in a bunch of new actors. They actually have stories that they can continue with.
Yeah, they really do.
And plenty of younger actors who are still around who can fill in those roles.
I don't think the actor who acted as that character in Voyager was the same actor. But nonetheless,
doesn't matter. It's a character that has a story, has a background, and you can actually move forward with it. This is, to me, this is your typical franchise / big money maker. Hey, let's make all this money right now. What about the future? Don't worry about the future. We'll worry about the future in the future. It just felt very
short-sighted. Like, it's like, now we want, like, and it had a huge impact. Like, I remember, like, I don't want him to die, especially because I know the relationship between him and Seven.
So who killed him?
So this woman who now has a gang, or like, you know, this militia, where a big aspect of her work is killing ex-Borg and taking their nanos and selling that in the black market. That's her whole thing. And we don't know the full story yet, but her and Seven apparently were friends at some point, and maybe even close friends, but yeah, things changed, right? And clearly now she's hunting people who are just like Seven and had ended up killing Seven's quote unquote son, right? So anyways, okay, so Picard now needs to go and save the twin sister who's working in that cube, right? He goes to Starfleet. He goes to this admiral who was his ensign. This is after the interview, right? So the woman yells at him, cusses him out essentially, swears at him, and tells him, how dare you? Like, you were just bad-mouthing Starfleet, and now here you are asking us for a ship, and you want me to put you in charge of the lives of men and women? That's not happening, right? So he leaves. He's kind of disillusioned, but he says, you know what? The two people that he lives with, the two Romulans, say to him, why don't you reach out to your old
crew?
Yeah. And he says, I don't want to do that to them. You know, if I say, they'll, regardless of what's happening in their personal lives, they're going to say yes. But there are other people that I'm going to try. So there's this one woman. Can I have the white paper, please? Raffi.
Okay.
Yeah, Raffi. So, and I haven't seen Raffi before in Star Trek shows, but apparently she was in one of his crews. I think she was in the crew in the ship that he was serving on before the whole Mars and Romulus thing happened, right? So anyways, she ended up, this person, Raffi, she ended up quitting or being kicked out of Starfleet just because of what Picard did. So there's like some sort of bad blood between him and her, but like she really looks up to him. When we see her, she's living in a desert, looks like to me like Arizona or something like that. And it seems like she has a drug problem and an alcohol problem. She is a Black woman. So to me, that was a little bit weird. Like, you know, you're making essentially the one mainish Black character in the show to be a person who has a drug problem and alcohol problem, but whatever. But she is a hothead, typical, right? If she rides with Picard, she's got to be a hothead. But anyways, so he reaches out to her. At first, she refuses, but then eventually she agrees to actually be on his crew. But before she even gets on his crew, she connects them with a captain, a guy who has his own ship. And that guy, his name was... Have the paper, please.
Can't find it.
Okay, anyways, so this guy, and he turns out himself to be ex-Starfleet. Okay, and his story is actually connected to the synthetics. We find that later on. But he goes, so now it's Picard, it's, gosh, he has a Spanish name, and Raffi, those three, they go together, and he goes to one of the planets where he helped settle a group of Romulans. On that planet, there was a young boy who was being trained by Romulan nuns. They have their own name. I forget what that was. And they're supposed to be really, really good fighters. But it's supposed to be only women. But because of what was happening, they took in this young boy who's an orphan or didn't have family, and they raised him. And they raised him in their school of fighting, right? So now he is like really good at fighting. This boy feels he was abandoned by Picard because Picard was supposed to come back to him. You know, this is like early on before Starfleet washes their hands off of everything. But anyways, so Picard goes back and recruits him. So now it's Picard, that boy Elnor, that's his name, Raffi, and the captain, those four together. They end up going to the cube. A whole bunch of things happen on the cube. At some point, Seven connects with them, actually. but Seven is not on their crew. Like she helped. Yeah. Okay. So if you remember Maddox. Okay. So on Next Generation, there was this guy who and I should have watched that episode again, but I didn't. But anyways, this Maddox guy wanted something from Data. Gosh, I don't remember. Anyways, so Maddox is the one that is actually creating the synthetic lives, is not Data, right? Data, after he had died, we find out towards the end, he downloaded his consciousness. But it's Maddox who's creating synthetic lives.
Okay, off of those brain patterns.
Yeah,
gotcha.
Yeah, but he's creating new, he's not creating Data.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. Okay. So so before he gets to be able to rescue the twin, he has to rescue Maddox, and Maddox is actually with the woman who killed Seven's adopted son. Ask me questions. Stop.
Why? Just tell the story.
So
what's the purpose of this mission?
Which mission? Because
the one that you're just now talking about on the cube.
The one on the cube is to rescue the girl.
Okay, did they?
Yeah. They end up rescuing the girl, yes. I was just trying to tell you that how they hooked up, or not hooked up, how they were able to connect with Seven, right? Mm-hmm. But anyway, Seven connects with them. They rescue Maddox. After they rescue Maddox, he's actually killed by
somebody.
I need the paper.
Sure, I'll find it.
I need the paper because it has all the names.
I don't know where it went.
Okay, anyways. My gosh. So they end up rescuing the girl, the twin, and a whole bunch of things are happening. There are these two Romulan brother and sister. The brother actually starts dating the twin girl, Dr. Soji, and he's convinced, like he, in a way, he falls in love with her, but at the same time, she ends up trusting him and kind of falling in love with him. So he ends up getting her to reveal where her planet is, right? Because at the beginning of the interactions with this twin, just like her sister, she doesn't know that she's synthetic, right? But through conversations, he gets her to realize something is off, to I'm actually, what the heck, I'm synthetic, to, okay, how were you created? Where were you created? And in that, she reveals her planet to him, right? Subconsciously, she knew, and then he tries to kill her. And just in time, that's when Picard shows up, that's when Seven shows up, the Romulan boy who is with. So anyways, they rescue her. They all end up going to the planet that the synthetic lives are, or the synthetic people are. Mm-hmm. And in that planet now we meet Dr. Sung, like I think his son. Yeah. Yeah, and it is the same actor who did Data. Yeah, who's playing him. And it's funny because the first time that we meet him, Picard's a little bit taken back, and he says, "Oh, I'm Sung," and like, yes, I've gone soft. I'm like, and he essentially he says like, Data would not have looked like me, because Data would not have gotten soft and this and this and this and that. So and we meet a whole bunch of synthetic life forms, and some of them look a whole lot more human. But some of them look like Data, and I don't mean like Data as in like the actor, but like they have that coppery goldish skin, they have those yellow eyes. The same actress who's acting as the twin sisters is also acting as one of the people there, and she's actually the leader. And that's very interesting because she's not as kind as the twin sisters, or like as trusting of humans as the twin sisters, and she's actually a lot more like what was his name, Lore?
Oh wow, his brother.
Yeah, she's a lot more like, to me, she feel, because there's a sense that you get the sense that she thinks she's better than humans, right? Yeah. So even though her creator and her mentor and father is Dr. Sung, the son, there's a sense that she's actually more superior to him in a way, but more than that, she's a little bit more like the leader of the whole place. And he's like the scientist behind the background, kind of, you know. So
this is a different kind of synthetic than what Maddox was making.
No, Maddox is making them. So it was Maddox and Soong that were making these synthetics together.
And why do these ones have the coppery goldish hue?
Just the development, right?
So these are older ones.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. Dr. Soji and her sister are kind of like the epitome of.
Oh, don't explain this more. I got what I needed from it. So go on with the story.
No, like there's actually beauty to it because she has freckles, right? And she has birthmarks, which is really beautiful because it's.
The actors don't have to wear so much makeup.
She's not. She's a human, right?
Exactly.
So yeah.
That's why it's so much better.
But I also like think of Data, right? Like how obsessive he was about all these little intricate little details. So Dr. Soong and Dr. Maddox are able to kind of like create Data's daughter in a way that Data would have loved. Yeah. So so now like essentially we're at the last 2 episodes. When we get to this planet, we tell those synthetic life forms or those people, they find out what has been happening. They haven't had contact with humans they haven't had contact with human except for with Dr. Maddox and Dr. Soong, right? And they're a little bit more naive, some of them, and some of them are more distressful, like that one woman who's like Lore. So now there was this one woman who worked at DI, who actually joined the captain's crew, and she killed Dr. Maddox on the ship. Big thing that I actually missed. So on Star Trek, the director of security or the chief of security for Star Trek is this half Vulcan, half Romulan called O. And she's actually a part of this cult within the Tal Shiar, and she was able to rise through the ranks, right? So what it turns out, we find out later on that Mars didn't just happen because the synthetic lives just went rogue or whatever and blew up. No. It was these guys doing it so that they can get Starfleet to ban synthetic lives, and nobody would suspect Romulans. Because why would they? Like, this blew up the armada that would have rescued Romulans, right? So this Dr. O, before she recruited this young woman who works at DI, was able to show her the prophecy, essentially, right? So the prophecy is that there are these highly evolved synthetic lives that will come back and will destroy organic lives in this, anyways, that will destroy organic life because that's their mission, right? So this cult takes it upon themselves that, there's like a threshold, and every time a threshold is reached, then that's when they will come back. So they felt that Starfleet was getting there at that threshold, and that's why they destroyed Mars and to get the ban. So so now this young doctor, being on the ship, having killed Maddox, she's conflicted herself, beyond conflicted actually. She realizes that she wasn't acting of her own accord, but she's taking the responsibility for killing Maddox, and she was actually Maddox's mate or girlfriend or something like that. But when they get to this planet with the synthetics, the one that is like Lore, the older sibling or whatever, she's able to do a mind meld, and she's able to see what this doctor has seen, what the Chief O has shown her through a mind meld, right? So she's like, oh, I understand this prophecy better than organic minds would have understood. So it's actually, this whole prophecy was not meant for the organics. It's actually meant for the synthetics. It's saying to the synthetics, reach out to us, we are another synthetic life form that has developed like, I don't know, millions or eons of years ago. And when you reach out to us, we will come to your galaxy and we will destroy the organic lives. And, their destruction will be your evolution. All right?
Okay.
Yeah. So now we have these Romulans who know the location of this planet, and they have this mission to kill synthetic lives. And then you have these synthetic lives who are afraid for their lives, but you also have these synthetic lives who are not trusting Starfleet because Starfleet has abandoned them, right, and banned them. So Picard is with them. So Picard is trying to get them to understand not to be the destroyers that the Romulans think they are, and not to call on these other synthetic life forms. But the leader, she creates a beacon with Dr. Soji, and they actually do call on those life forms. Long story short, Dr. Soong switches allegiances.
Mm-hmm. Just sitting there 46 minutes, you said long story short. Go on.
I know. Well, it's like 10 episodes.
Hey, don't explain. Come on.
Anyways, so Picard, so now this is the last episode. Picard sacrifices himself essentially so that he can continue doing what he needs to do. He takes his medication, like he was having the effects of his disease, right? Like major headaches and stuff like that. So he asked the doctor that was with him to give him a medication, but that hastened the inevitable. That's what he says in the show. So anyways, what he does is that he reaches out to Starfleet before the Romulans came to make a claim on the planet and to destroy the planet. So he says, I have made a diplomatic connection with people here on planet, whatever he called it, with the numbers and stuff like that. So it wasn't a claimed planet. He says, I made this diplomatic connection and I need Starfleet to get here. There are Romulans that are coming to destroy these people, right? So he goes up, he's fighting with, 250 Romulan ships and stuff like that. But anyways, nick of time, Starfleet comes, equal amount of ships, and the beacon is by this time activated, and they're actually calling those synthetic life forms. So we see like this big circle up in space with like these things that look like machines but kind of like snakes trying to come out, and that would have been really bad. But Picard is able to convince Soji to close that hole, or to destroy the beacon, and she does. And he's like, trust me, like Starfleet is here aiming their guns at the Romulans instead of the other way around, both the Romulans and Starfleet joining forces to destroy you. That's not what's happening. Trust us. So she says, okay. So she closes it down, and then O retreats with the Romulans. And who's leading Starfleet? Riker.
Okay.
Riker.
Oh, it's Riker.
It's Riker. It was actually really, really sweet. I think in the second or third episode, we do see Riker and, remind me her name.
Marina Sirtis.
But like her character.
Yeah, her B'Elanna Troi.
Yes, Counselor Troi. Yes, him and Counselor Troi, they live in this like, it's not a vineyard, but it's like this really beautiful space, and they have a daughter together, and they had a son who had died, something like that. But anyways,
his kid's dying.
Right. Anyway, so Riker decides he's gonna rescue his captain, so he's leading the whole fleet that is here to rescue or to stop the annihilation of the synthetic life forms. So after Starfleet leaves and the Romulans have left, now Picard is dying. So Soji beams him down to the planet, and they're actually able to download his consciousness. There was a body that...
so he's going to be a synthetic now.
Yeah, so Soong, like in the past couple of episodes, we had seen Soong creating a body, right?
Mm-hmm. Was he doing it specifically for Picard?
No, just
for who?
Nobody. It was just like one more body, that was his thing, right? But he was also talking about how he's not really good at downloading consciousness, how that was Maddox's specialty, right? But now we have Maddox's girlfriend who's here now, right? Mm-hmm. So she plus Dr. Soji and him are able to download the consciousness onto this body. Before they do that, though, Picard's consciousness needs to go somewhere. So it goes into this quantum something, and he actually is able to meet Data, because Data hasn't completely died. His consciousness was saved, right? In this machine. Yeah, okay. So he goes and he's having a full-on conversation. He's able to tell Data that I never got a chance to say I love you. They get to talk about, it was super sweet.
They just want to make some sap crap that, oh God. What a waste. What a waste. It was
very beautiful.
Okay? Oh my God.
It was very beautiful.
When you're out of story, you resort to, here's a really emotional scene. Come on, man. No, that's just weak.
It wasn't.
I'm sure that it looked really good, but on paper like this, no, that's just weak. So there's like this moment when his consciousness is in his body and then over here, but there's this moment in between, you're saying.
Yeah.
Because now his consciousness was downloaded over here, which I know that sounds really silly and whatnot, but transporter technology is silly. You know what I'm saying? When you think about it, because you have to look at this through quantum, space. You're destroying one body to bring it over here. And there's that one episode of Star Trek Next Generation where Jonathan Frank Riker, Riker's actually, I'm going to transport, back, but he does, but his actual body down there doesn't get destroyed. So his consciousness and mind is there, and that's over here. So for that one briefest of moments, they're identical twins in every way, like genetic, DNA twins.
Everything, yeah.
And then they start having separate lives from that moment on. So each moment they're getting farther away from where they, where they diverged. Consciousness can be downloaded according to freaking, Star Trek.
Yeah.
So it's also silly as hell, but whatever, it is.
But we knew from the beginning of Picard that that Data wasn't completely gone, right?
Why not?
Because he had downloaded his consciousness and his consciousness was saved, and like his Cybertronic something, whatever, could, from one of them, his whole self could be recreated, his consciousness could be recreated, right? So Soong and Maddox kept his consciousness. In this limbo, when Picard meets him, they have this wonderful conversation and reminisce about different things. It's like, anyways, whatever, they reminisce about different things. But at the end, Data asks Picard to let him die, right? And he just kind of talks about,
Good callback to when Seven has to kill her son.
Different.
Of course it's different, but it's also the same.
Yeah, because it's his son, right?
Because I did see that one commercial where Seven is standing there, Jerry Ryan, and she's like, "Damn you, Picard," something like that.
Yeah. That's, I think, that's how they meet.
Boom. So there you go. All of a sudden, it's like, came back to you because now you have to do the same thing.
Yeah.
He always treated Data like a son.
Yeah, and he still does, and he still thinks of him that way. And in some ways, the twins, he kind of treated them like an extension of that, kind of like his daughter.
Anyway, so what happens with the freaking thing? Like, don't. Now you're diverging. You're diverging.
Data asks him to let him die.
Yes.
Because Data wants to be human.
Because he wants to freaking die. So what happens? He kills him?
Yeah, he kills him. They have a moment of how they do that. Anyways.
You don't ruin the whole damn story. You let enough there, so it's like, wow, this sounds interesting. Let me watch it. Instead, you're just like, oh, and then this detail and this detail. Stop wrecking the details, man.
This is supposed to be a spoiler. Anyways, okay.
It's a spoiler, not a recreation.
So the body that Picard ends up with is an old body. They didn't change much. He doesn't have superpowers, but he doesn't have that illness anymore, right?
Does it look like him?
Yeah, everything. Yeah, and Soong says, like, I knew that you wouldn't want something new, that you wouldn't want to get used to something new, so I kept everything the same. You just don't have that illness anymore, right? So, and now he's a synthetic. Synthetics are no longer banned, but I don't know going forward if he's going to tell Starfleet that, he had actually done, and how that would play out, because he's still Admiral, like, at the end, they say to him, they ask him like, Admiral, do you want us to go or something like that? So they're still referring to him as Admiral. Yeah.
So what kind of superpowers in general do they have? You said they spit and destroy people?
No, those are the Romulans. The Romulans had some sort of a chemical in their mouth when they're about to be kidnapped or whatever, arrested. They would bite that down and then like it would just disintegrate down.
On their tooth.
Yeah,
okay.
So that one guy, he was about to die, and then he spit it on that one twin.
Gotcha. Okay, so what superpowers do these guys have? Just super strong and stuff like that?
Yeah, super strong. Really, really good with manipulating technology. Yeah, those are the things that I've seen. Like nothing.
Oh.
But like able to hack into data while she's sitting here.
Mm-hmm.
Into like the computers and stuff like that.
Oh, so computer hacking through cyberspace?
Yes.
Wayland hacking?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. Hardly a superpower, but okay. I'm sitting here expecting like synthetic X-Men. It's like, who's the one who's got the,
No. Like, well, at least I haven't seen any of that. But like that, if she was able to hack a ship in minutes.
Cool.
Okay.
Data was able to do that stuff too. He just didn't need to use his fingers.
Yeah. Anyways, these ships it's like the same things that we've been seeing with Discovery, like very fancy. They don't have actual screens that you can touch. Like it's, what is the word?
Holograms?
Yeah, it's kind of like holograms, yeah.
Gotta love Tony Stark, man. The Iron Man movie came out and suddenly everybody's like, hey, that's a cool technology. We've got a great use for this.
Yeah. Makes me wonder if we're ever actually going to do that. Like, it's weird. Like, anyways, whatever.
We still don't have warp drive.
If we did, then we would have aliens. Because, that's a threshold. We get warp drive, aliens come.
Which aliens?
Vulcans.
There you go.
Live long and prosper.
The thumb isn't in. It's supposed to be out.
Really?
Yeah. Live long and prosper. Really? How long have you been watching Star Trek for?
I don't think they have, is it like one way of doing it?
Yes.
Okay, fine. Well, I'm actually going to Google that later, but whatever.
Be my guest.
So is there anything else that you want to know about the show?
No, not about the show, but from you, what do you look forward to happening in the next season?
That's a really good question. I don't know. I'm just going to let them. I just hope they don't disappoint, because oftentimes they end up disappointing you. So right now it's been great. It had a lot of momentum, from episode to episode. Like I really wanted to see what was going to happen. It just feels like now things have concluded. And literally like in the last episode, you have everybody happily ever after. And if the story ends this way, like I would be satisfied. I mean, of course, I would definitely want to see more of the characters and more of the story, but like it ends up in a happily ever after.
Didn't end up on a cliffhanger like season 2 of Cobra Kai?
No cliffhanger whatsoever. Everything beautifully done. Not even that. Like you have, oh my gosh, the one scientist who killed Maddox and the captain, they're actually dating. They end up dating. So like, they're kissing each other, holding each other.
Not keeping social distancing?
No social distancing.
Jackasses.
Rafi and Seven are together. So Seven is lesbian. I always knew that.
Well, okay, this is actually a callback because there was a time when the lesbian movement, they weren't called LGBTQ back then. They were all like separate. Mm-hmm. They were trying to get certain groups together. One of them was Xena and Gabriella. You remember the Xena?
Yeah, Xena. I
Lucy
remember.
Lawless. Yeah. Mm-hmm. They were trying to get them together. There was one episode where they were in a bathtub together and like we're about to go to war. You remember that episode, right? And just like we've only got this time to be this last time potentially to be together, and it was like and then they never went and did anything with it ever again. It was like, here's your little thing, since but they're gonna move on, and and then with there was a couple of them, but these were the two most famous ones. The other one was obviously Star Trek Voyager, because a lot of people were saying we need to in the lesbian community, hey, we need to see Seven get with Captain Janeway.
Oh my God, that would have been terrible.
It would have been, because it was forcing stuff that the show didn't push to begin with.
No, because not even that, like Janeway and Seven, that's a mother-daughter relationship.
Exactly.
Like it was a very sweet, tender mentor. I would have hated
it
that.
would have felt like incest.
Yeah.
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 Everything that they'd been building beforehand.
Yeah.
It would not have worked going that way.
No.
So it's literally like, I hope that this was literally just, because I do like the idea of lots of representation. Everybody deserves representation.
Mm-hmm.
But
it has to be done right.
It has to be done right. It has to be done from the beginning. And it might be, what? How about we create some new characters to put in here, and we can actually do that.
And this,
maybe we could have a new character who comes up, and that's who, like they did with Raph and
and
Seven here.
Yeah.
Good. So this is a good callback. Hey, we're going to do that. But yeah, like you can't have a mother-daughter relationship that suddenly it would have felt incestuous. It wouldn't have been right. So no, so that's what I'm saying. I'm glad that they did this then. So it's like, hey, we're going to answer that call that was done. It may be a decade later, but here you go. No, that's awesome. I love that.
Yeah, I like it a lot, and that's one of the things that I'm looking forward to see how that relationship will look like. Seven is not the same Seven that we had in Voyager. She's a lot more human.
She was exploring herself and everything like that. There, she was with Kim. Screw Chakotay. That was a jackass thing. She was with Kim, wasn't she?
She was never with Kim.
Oh, well, Kim had a crush on her.
Yeah.
Who did she kind of start to look like she was getting with?
Chakotay.
No. That wasn't until that last episode. There was never any hint that her and Chakotay were.
No, she had a crush on him before that. Yeah, she had a crush on him before that.
I don't remember this. Repeating yourself doesn't help me remember anything.
It must have been in the last season, or maybe the second last season, but there was a whole episode of her creating a hologram of him and dating him in the holodeck and stuff like that.
I don't remember that.
Yeah.
I don't remember that episode. Oh, well. Huh.
But aside from that, she tried to date somebody who was just a random character in Voyager.
I remember that one. It didn't work out at all.
Didn't work out. But there was also I can't remember the episode, but like shoot. Oh my gosh. Okay, so in Voyager, the Borg, when they are asleep, they're not asleep actually, but
in stasis.
Yes, not in. Anyways, yes. They can have a dual life, right? So they can actually become their true selves. I forget what those episodes were called. It was 2 episodes.
Oh, I do remember those episodes. Yeah, and regenerating.
Yes.
You feel better now? You got the actual official word?
Yes, they're regenerating. So
you're such a purist.
So in those episodes, she had a love interest. Somebody that when she was in that state, back when she was with the Borg.
She was human, yeah.
When she was with the Borg, when she goes and she's regenerating, she was in the space where she can go back to being Annika. Right?
Yes.
So
so when she was human, she had a relationship with somebody.
Exactly.
Because there were the 9.
Yeah.
The 9 of them together. Yes.
Yeah.
I remember that. Yeah, whatever. I just never liked the Chakotay thing. Whatever. I just felt like it was rushed. It was.
Yeah. It wasn't well developed.
No. Yeah. No.
It was just kind of like throw it together.
It was. I'm going to use a hateful word. It was trash. It was garbage. I just didn't like it. Plus, at the end of the day, Chakotay, in my opinion, never did anything to deserve it. Again, I don't remember the character's name, or the character's whatever, the actor's name.
He actually, until they decide, it felt like this just came out of a sudden one day. Writers were having a meeting and they're like, oh, let's put these characters together. But everything before that, Chakotay actually didn't like her. He didn't want her to be. Not that he didn't like her, but
No, he didn't like her. He didn't trust her.
Yeah.
He had nothing to do with anything.
Yeah.
You couldn't even do a callback to the Mackay. Mackay? Is that what his group is called? Macau? What the? Maquis. Thank you. What do you call it? Yeah, he you couldn't even appeal to him that way. I don't know. When the Maquis were such and such, we trusted you guys. It's just like B'Elanna, she would listen to that. But him, he would just be like, I don't want to hear it. It's like, wow, you're a dick. Yeah, no, there was very little I actually liked about the character. All in all, it's just whatever. Yeah. The Native American thing didn't bother me, but yeah, whatever, man. He was a fairly useless character.
And he actually did have a bit of a love interest between him and Janeway, right? So that part, the fact that they hooked him up with Seven was a little bit weird. It's like,
it's too weird for me.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm glad they did this instead. Because aside, my whole point was, aside from the time when he was with her, whatever, she was just exploring life. She was just trying to see things. So to find out afterwards, hey, check this out. Turns out, oh, good to know. That makes perfect sense. Her actually committing to somebody doesn't make any kind of sense.
Yeah, because she has a lot of.
And again, I doubt that he would even show up. He didn't want to be in the show. He hated that the show got picked up.
Yeah.
From the pilot.
7. It didn't make sense that she would have a happily ever after Voyager, because for me, coming to Earth would mean that her journey towards healing would begin, right? So she had a lot of trauma to work out. And this is one of the aspects that I like about Picard, because it shows that she's still on that journey. There isn't a happily ever after for her, because she's gone through a very traumatic thing. So yes, she's conflicted. She is what is the word? Like her job right now is kind of like a missionary. She's a rogue protector of, I don't know, wronged people.
A superhero.
Yes.
She's Batman.
She's working in space. But anyways, and that makes more sense to me than the last episode of Voyager, where
I still look a little bit taller than you. You're in a much higher chair than me.
Whatever, I'm short.
Not that short.
So yeah. Anyways, yeah, that's my take on the show.
Okay, cool. What actors are you looking forward to see?
7. I really want to see more of 7.
More of 7?
I want to see more of Raffi. I liked Raffi a little bit. So Raffi has a bit of a superpower. I don't know what it is, but she's able to kind of foresee things. She's a regular human, but like she's just able to read things a bit better than other people are.
So she's more perceptive.
Yes, but like they're playing it off as like she has some sort of a heightened something.
Heightened sense.
Yeah.
That's fine. Also, I dig the callback to Deep Space Nine with the prophecies and things like that, and how they actually still made sense. It wasn't magic. It seemed like it was magic or God or religion or something like that. And then by the time you get to the end of Deep Space Nine, it's like, no, actually that made perfect sense. And so similarly, prophecy. Yeah, it's not really a prophecy. It's a subspace message.
Exactly,
so all of it. I love that. I love the idea that you introduce. So there's so many people just right away. Oh, well, how do you explain this? It's obviously magic, or it's obviously God. People used to say that about a lot of things throughout history.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So I love the idea that they still do that. The idea there's still people who would believe. No, how do you explain it? How do you explain it? Dude, we've got warp technology. We've got phaser technology. We've got replicator technology. And you're still believing in freaking magic?
Yeah.
So it's awesome because it shows some humans will never learn.
In this episode, one of the Vulcan
Romulans.
Yes, one of the Romulan siblings, the brother, he is sitting down with some of the crew that Picard assembled, and he's telling them of the story, this belief of his, and it's essentially like the end of the world from their perspective, right? So it's like, these demons, you have these 2 demon sisters who what's it called, one of them has what did he say, like a drum made out of the skin of children, and she's beating it with a chain made out of skulls, and she's beating it so hard that her heart bursts. And the other sister has a horn, and when she blows on that horn, these demons come, and I forget what he called them, but like these demons come, and these demons essentially eat up all the organic lives in all the different worlds. And this is their belief. And he's like, this has happened before. This is history, and history repeats itself. That's the thing about history. It repeats itself. So he's here to stop that from happening. But then at the end of the episode, that myth is like, it's a myth.
Yeah, because history repeating itself is not reality. It's just entropy. Entropy is reality. And if you don't clean your house, then similar things will happen.
Yeah,
it's
not.
It's like, imagine a boulder coming down a hill, and just every year you got to go up and reinforce the stands, saying 20 years I've been doing this my whole life, my kids don't pay attention to that, and they're just like, it's never fallen before. Yeah, but it's because I've always been holding it. It'll hold, and all of a sudden it starts falling. Say, oh, history is repeating itself. No, the same damn thing is happening. You were just too stupid to clean your damn house. So no, I like that they also dispelled that. Nice, that's good. So I know your favorite character for the most part was the Doctor. What part do you think the Doctor could play if he shows up? Because I'm pretty sure he's going to show up. And you know that Whoopi Goldberg's character is going to show up because Patrick Stewart showed up on The View and was like, hey, sorry you couldn't be in this one, but I'm formally inviting you to season 2. And she's like, and I could give a rat's ass about Whoopi Goldberg anymore. She doesn't represent poor people anymore. She's an elitist.
None of them do.
But that being said, but I don't know who any of the other ones are. I know that she used to represent poor people, so screw her. But as far as the Doctor,
I mean, he's going to be a hologram. We saw at the end of Voyager.
What if they combined the synthetic with the hologram thing? It is a separate life form. Do you think that would be interesting to you?
Yeah, absolutely. One kink that they need to iron out. The thing that made the Doctor special in Voyager was that he had his mobile emitter, right? And other holograms didn't have that, therefore they weren't able to evolve as much, right? So we need to see that technology being implemented wide and how that looks like now.
What if they did several satellites, mobile emitter satellites, so to speak?
Yeah.
So instead of just having projectors on walls, oh look, satellites all around this planet. What if we had satellites on Mars also, but we didn't, we weren't really paying attention to that because whatever, so this way holograms could exist there. Because imagine that. Imagine if you could instantly deploy a hologram army, instantly deploy a hologram medic. It's like, hey, we need to get there immediately. How about faster than the speed of light?
Fast. Picard right now in the last episode, he did deploy a hologram ships. He just created images of his ship and just kind of projected it as an army while he was facing the Romulans before Starfleet came. Some technology, this, that. Anyways, yeah. So, but they weren't real, right? They had the illusion of having a war drive and stuff like that. So the Romulans were able to read them as. But anyways.
Yeah, because they're holograms, so they would actually be solid light particles.
Yeah. But what's it called? With a Doctor, it'd be really interesting. I honestly don't I'm just sitting back and letting them entertain me. So, but I just want the story to be good. Right now it wrapped up beautifully, so I don't know what they could do to pick it up.
I think that a great way would be to introduce them as, hey, look, holograms, they, if let's say around an episode 2 or 4, something like that, because there's 10 episodes each season, it seems. Okay, look, here's the thing with, the organics and things like that. There's still problems, still rogue sects of the Tal Shiar. We still got to, be on the road. We got to go to rescue people. You go into rescue, and all of a sudden it's like, wait a second, I'm not picking up any synthetic life forms or any life forms here. What's going on? And then people start coming out. Oh wow, these are holograms.
Yeah.
And then the Doctor could be there. He's leading a movement, a revolutionary movement. And then all of a sudden you start to realize it's it's just literally bring in the entire cast, so to speak, of hologram peoples. And that could also be, super fun because someone could be dressed as cowboys or whatever, taking up whatever identity they choose to, because this is what they're used to, whatever, when they were in the holodeck or, whatever. And then it's like, we've always been overlooked. Do you actually pay more attention to synthetic life forms, as opposed to us, we're the other synthetic life forms. Hey, it's like, we need to bring in an ambassador, somebody who's more used to dealing this. Enter Catherine Janeway.
We did see a little bit of holograms in Picard when he goes to the museum. There's this person, and he calls her Index. That's it, right? So it's like, Index, show me the room that has this Index. What is this picture called, right? So, but she has a very limited existence, or that being has a very limited existence. Yeah. So it's something that the Doctor would have hated, or like at least would have felt her pain, you know? She actually tries to make a joke at some point, and Picard just kind of looks at her like this, and she's like, okay, we're just trying something, you know? So like she's trying to evolve.
That's a setup.
Yeah.
That's definitely a setup.
Yeah.
Chekhov's gun. I don't mean Chekhov like in the original series.
Yeah.
This is something in playwriting. If you're going to have a set, and let's say on the set you've got a rifle hanging on the wall, at some point that thing has got you got to do something with that gun. So
hopefully.
Yeah,
because
just that one little thing could be something where it's like, you know, holograms still don't have any real rights, but they are clearly AI. So yeah, perfect, you know, set up for those who are gonna actually analyze, know what they're looking at. So
and the fact that the actor for the Doctor has aged is very easily explained, because the Doctor, even in Voyager itself,
he still looks like him.
I know,
it's just gray hair, like that's something you could just fix up and touch up a little bit.
But also like his lines are a little bit deeper. But yes, I know he looks very much the same.
We can make people look like predators.
But also with CGI, what was that show that we watched, The Irishman? Like, and how they were able to...
Yeah, that's cute also. They really started doing... he acted like he was somebody special with that, Martin Scorsese. Yeah. The freaking Ant-Man movie did that with Michael Douglas. So I don't want to hear about the freaking Irishman. You know what I'm saying? It was a fun movie, but he's also a guy who likes to talk about, oh, yeah, those superhero movies are just theme parks and whatnot.
Oh, he's that guy.
Oh, yeah, that's Martin Scorsese. So, hey, Scorsese does some really good movies, but they're all the same movie. If it's not about mafia guys, does he do movies that aren't about mafias?
Yeah, well,
you know what I'm saying? He's about exploiting his own people. So cute, real cute, bud.
But yeah, no, I hear you. Like, you know, they can definitely make, but they didn't do that with Data right now. So with the scenes that we had with Data, he is definitely a lot more plumb. Yeah, like he looks older, you know. So you can see that they weren't able to do that very well. I don't know if they have the budget to do this.
They couldn't do anything with him. That's the reason why he stopped, you know, coming back to the movies. He's like, dude, I don't look like this anymore. And like the amount of time I'm in the makeup chair to even make myself kind of look like I used to, it's not worth it.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I can imagine that.
Yeah, he just doesn't want to be bothered anymore. Yeah. So a one shot, happy to do a one shot. You know, but yeah.
And now he made sure that they kill his conscience. So any chance of him
murder me. He basically had a Han Solo moment. Listen, I'll come back, but only if you find a way to kill me in the freaking movie. You know what I'm saying? The Harrison Ford, the actor who plays Han Solo.
Yeah. So yeah.
Cool. So I'm glad that you liked it a lot.
I do. I actually want to go back to Next Generation, maybe watch some of the movies, and then watch it again so that I could see like what holes have I been missing, and you know, because I'm sure there's a lot with, especially when it comes to Dr. Soong and that story. I don't remember that. I haven't watched Next Generation or the movies in a very long time, right? So, and that's where the continuity of the story is. So even Maddox, like he is a big part of the story, even though the actor himself wasn't in it for a very long time. But I barely remember his storyline in Next Generation.
Yeah, I don't remember it.
Yeah. Like I know, like he was kind of like the bad guy in one episode. He was trying to do something or take something from Data, and like that was that was one of the episodes where, you know, the rights of he wasn't called Synthetic Life in that show, but like, you know, so like the rights of Data, right? And where, you know, one of the episodes where it's decided that Data is a living life form that has rights. Yeah. And Maddox was on the opposite side of that, but he was a much younger guy. Yeah. Well, this is a wrap.
Yeah. When you're ready to watch that one First Contact movie, I'll watch that again.
Yeah.
The other ones, Nemesis and all those. Yeah, not interested.
Yeah. I don't remember the storyline of Nemesis, but I remember liking it.
I think that was the one where at the end Data became like God.
Yeah, there are a lot of one of the things I remember vaguely is that the Romulans weren't purely evil. Like a lot of the times when Star Trek looks at the Romulans, they just try to portray them as the boogeyman. Like, oh, let's just make them the easy evil ones, and I don't like that. So it's like every time there's a bit of
I've never really seen it that boogeyman, yes, but not an easy boogeyman.
No,
they're Vulcans, but they embrace their emotions.
Yeah.
Which, what was the thing called when Spock would get horny? Because he would like Ponfar. There you go. You remember that? when he and Kirk went out with each other, it was like, dude, how do you defeat a Vulcan? Like a Klingon, nobody stands up to a Vulcan. These are clearly the most dominant species in the entire universe. You know what I'm saying? Until they made Borg. But in the original series, like we used to watch this, like these guys would take over everybody. And then you come to find out about the Romulans, and it's like, holy crap.
Yeah.
They answered that. So no, the Romulans were something very special, not new, yet unique. They definitely posed a brilliant threat. So, yeah, is what it is. All right. And we're going to leave now. All right, guys, we're out. Professor Bill, Comic Book University. Class dismissed.